travel by train.
Oh, yeah? What do you think this is, a class trip?
A tough ex-cop.
Are you always this angry?
A sensitive criminal.
Oh, no, come on. Cigarettes are killers.
Why are we running away from the FBI?
Because I gotta bring it back myself, otherwise I won't get my money.
They can't fly. They also suffer from acrophobia and claustrophobia.
I'll tell you what, if you don't cooperate, you're gonna suffer from fistophobia.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin,
I'm Jake.
and this is Movie Matters. Today we're talking about Midnight Run from 1988 with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, directed by Martin Brest. I love this movie. I know I say that about a lot of the movies we watch, but like this movie is amazing and it's so underrated, and I think everyone needs to watch this movie ASAP. What do you think, Jake? This is your first viewing, right?
Yeah. You're not going to like my answer.
You didn't like it?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was about a half hour too long. It's definitely fun, and it's the plot is interesting. I like that it's a bounty hunter movie, because I feel like that's not usually a like character type that gets much like screen time. So that's kind of neat. I like that it's kind of a like personal revenge movie, but like not in the sense that he's trying to kill somebody, you know, he's just trying to fuck them over, which is, you know, I think a like refreshing way to get revenge. I think, in a lot of ways, this is, written very much like a movie we would have made in high school. in some of the dialogue. It's just too long. It feels like really repetitive to me. It's like they get like, you know, like they're on the road, something happens, there's like some weird thing that they have to do, and then they get back on the road. It's like there's like 7 or 8 of those. It's like, okay, like this is, you know, like let's just get in the biplane, fly to LA like halfway through the movie, and I would have been okay with that. But yeah, I mean, not a bad movie by any means. Yeah, just not one that I would like repeatedly watch like over and over.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I truly am shocked.
I had a feeling you were going to be surprised, because I was pretty surprised. On paper, this is a movie that I should be like really pumped about, but yeah. I'd say like definitely over a 5 on the scale out of 10. I mean, it's probably like a 6 or 7, but it's not like, I don't know. I'm not gonna watch it every year like I do with like Die Hard or the Blues Brothers or, you know, whatever. But
yeah, this isn't a movie I watch every year. But speaking of Blues Brothers, it has Blues Brothers vibes in my opinion, and it has Planes, Trains, and Automobiles vibes. It's a buddy comedy action road trip movie, and I don't know, it's just super fun, and De Niro is awesome in it, and Charles Grodin is awesome in it. And
I wish Grodin had a little bit more like impact in the movie. I feel like a lot of times he's just getting like whipped around and like doesn't really have like as good of a backstory as De Niro does. So like that I think could have been fleshed out a little bit better, instead of like, I don't know, a lot of also too many scenes of the other hitman just like eating like
the
roast
other bounty
beef
hunter
on the bed, for like, you know, no reason. It's like, you know, I don't know. I feel like the movie got a little distracted at times, and that's probably why it's so long.
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the performances are good. Yeah, De Niro's really good in it. I love the subplot with his family.
Me too.
That's a really good element of the movie. And like I said, the revenge aspect of it is pretty great, and like the way it's uncovered over time is really done nicely. And he gets his big like go fuck yourself moment at the end, which is pretty great.
Yeah, it gets two
like
literal payoffs. One literal and
like
figurative.
it is actually refreshing for it to not be shooting somebody.
Yeah.
Considering that's like every other movie we've watched is
Especially
the guy gets
the
to
80s.
blow somebody away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting movie overall, I think.
Yeah, I would agree it's a hair too long. It's like 10 to 20 minutes too long for me, but I agree with the repetitiveness of like, you know, they're on a train and then they get off before it can get, you know, the cops can get them, and then they're on a bus and they get off before the cops can get them.
Yeah.
You know, like that, for example. Like, yeah, I get that that's repetitive. I don't know. It's just a really feel-good movie for me. It's fun. It's very 80s. It's a different side of De Niro that you haven't really seen, especially in that time frame, and I really like that. And he really plays the serious guy, but it also plays comedically, and I like that.
Well, he's like a caricature of like a New York tough guy, which is like kind of funny. Like he really overcompensates on like the tough guy like thing, which I think is why it's kind of comedic at times.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in his career, he was specifically looking for kind of more lighter fare. And what's funny is I read that literally the same year the movie Big with Tom Hanks came out by Penny Marshall, and he wanted to be in that movie. He wanted to be Tom Hanks's character, which is wild to think that. And they passed on him, and then he read this movie and he's like, oh, this is good, like I'm gonna do this. So and it was his first major mainstream action movie. He had done all kind of dramas before this, and you know, smaller independent things, I
mean, well, up until this point, he had done some like at least 2 or 3 like classic films, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously he
Like-
had done Raging Bull in '80, which I can't wait to do that film. That film's fantastic. And I mean, he's done a ton of films.
And because Taxi Driver
That's
was
the 70s.
70s.
Yeah.
And then Godfather Part 2 was in the 80s, wasn't it?
I think so.
So, I mean, it's not like he hadn't done some, like, major work before. But, yeah, this probably is his, like, first big, like,
Part 2 is
action.
74.
Oh, really? Jesus. It's
Yeah,
way older than I
70s.
thought it was.
Yeah. But yeah, he had Raging Bull, King of Comedy, Once Upon a Time in America, Brazil, Angel Heart, The Untouchables before this.
Oh, yeah.
So all really serious roles. So this was definitely lighter fare.
Yeah.
And I think he's awesome in it. I really enjoy his acting. He also, like, you know him, he's a great actor. He went the full mile to prepare for the role. I read that he basically like would go with like police officers and do like routine stops and stuff like that. He was like super into it. And it's funny because the contrast to that is Grodin, his role, he literally just called his accountant and was like, what would you do if you did this? And he just told him, he's like, cool, that's my preparation. Which is really funny. Yeah, there's also an interesting fact. So Paramount Pictures originally owned the rights to this film, and to improve on the film's chances at the box office, they wanted a big name star to co-star with De Niro. And at first they wanted it to be changed to a woman instead of Grodin, and they wanted Cher to be the woman because of her box office success with like Moonstruck and all that. And they thought it would like lend some sexual overtones and some sexuality to the movie, and the director was like, fuck that.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah. And so then Paramount suggested Robin Williams be cast for the role, who recently did Good Morning Vietnam. And Robin Williams liked the script and agreed to audition. But Brest was like, nah, fuck that as well. No disrespect to Robin Williams. He's like, I just want Charles Grodin. And because he liked the chemistry between him and De Niro. And so Paramount dropped the project. They dropped the film. And they were like,
wow.
Yeah, we're not doing that because it doesn't have a bigger name star attached to it. And so they sold the rights to Universal. And they're like, all right, we'll do it. Which is crazy.
That's really interesting, especially because you already have De Niro.
I know.
So, like, trying to be super greedy with another big name actor just, like, doesn't make that much sense to me, but
yeah, I mean,
their loss.
Agreed. I mean, this movie is considered a classic amongst like film historians and stuff. And if you look at like reviews of this, like everybody adores this film. So I'm really shocked you don't like it. And it made a good amount of money. It made almost 82 million on a budget of like 35 million, which is kind of a high budget. But it made money, so it wasn't a box office failure, but it wasn't probably the huge success that Paramount wanted it to be initially before Universal picked it up, which is cool. So yeah, interesting facts on that for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know. I love just De Niro's smart ass. You know, all his comments, his banter with everyone, especially like Alonzo Mosley, the little cat and mouse game that they play, the FBI agent. I love that, and like the whole like sunglasses calling card, which is super cool. Him stealing Alonzo Mosley's FBI badge in the beginning and like turning to the camera and like flashing it. I love that. It's just I don't know. It's a really good, funny movie that just I enjoy watching it every time because it just gives me Planes, Trains, and Automobiles vibes, and that's one of my all-time favorite 80s movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it has a lot of Planes, Trains similarities, obviously. And then, yeah, the soundtrack is like hardcore Blues Brothers, which oddly enough was Danny Elfman.
A lot of harmonica. Yeah.
Which was like very surprising to me. But very cool. Cause like this is not what you think of when you think of Danny Elfman, like at all.
No.
You think of like gothic emo, like
yeah. Batman.
Whatever. Batman, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of neat. But like we talked about how he was actually in like a rock band.
Yeah, Boinga or something like that, right?
Yeah, in the late 70s or early 80s. So
yeah,
it would make sense that he's got some pretty diverse musical chops. So yeah, I mean that I thought was pretty cool. I think its soundtrack fits extremely well with the movie. It's like a bluesy, jazzy kind of thing.
Yeah. I love it.
It's almost like saloon music, or not saloon, like lounge music, in like a way, which fits with like the kind of like sleazy, Vegas-y kind of like vibe, you know, like that's like throughout the whole movie. Like they're always in some kind of like dingy place that's like, you know, off the beaten path or whatever, you know. So I think it all works like really well. The settings in the movie are like great too, like overall.
Yes,
they do a great job with all the different locations. that they like end up having to like claw their way through during the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you got L.A., you got New York, then you have Chicago, and then, you know, we talked about on our last podcast, we're from Chicago. I live in Arizona now, and a lot of the ending of this takes place in Arizona. And, like, there's that big chase scene through Sedona, which Sedona is beautiful in Arizona. And there's the train scene in Flagstaff. And it's cool because, you know, not a lot of movies film here in Arizona. Very, very seldomly do movies film here. I think that's going to change in the near future because there's no tax credits for films. So usually when films go to particular states, they go there because they get a lot of tax credits.
Yeah.
And obviously that helps with the bottom line of things. And Arizona offers none of that, which sucks. So, like, literally LA studios, Hollywood studios will drive through Arizona and go to, like, New Mexico and film there. It's crazy. And I think they're going to change a law. It may be this year that they started doing tax incentives for films. So, because Arizona's got every type of, like, climate and location and scenery. It's crazy. And people don't realize that. And that's why I love it here. And, like, you know, Flagstaff, I was literally just there, like, at the beginning of February. And there's a main train that runs through the town of Flagstaff, and that's the train that they're on, which is cool. Nice. And I was literally right there, you know, 3-4 weeks ago, and it was just cool. I was like, oh shit, like, that's awesome. And that scene in particular in Flagstaff, I read that particular scene, because there were so many cops on set, you know, set cops, they prevented a kidnapping of a woman in Flagstaff. Like, that's like, it was like, was it? There were, extras dressed as policemen and driving police vehicles all around. And that there was, let's see, what did they say? 2 men were in the process of kidnapping one young woman from a coffee shop in downtown Flagstaff right as a dozen or so police cars drove past the coffee shop. The attempted kidnappers were spooked into thinking they were being chased by real policemen, and they threw the girl down and ran. Isn't that crazy? I can't believe that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. I mean, there's some stupid jokes in this movie, but I think they're funny. Like, for example, where he's like, "Hey, Marvin, look over there," and then punches the guy in the face. The other bounty hunter, played by John Ashton, who I like him. He's hilarious. You said he was like the other, like, hitman bounty hunter guy.
Yeah.
I love anything with Dennis Farina in it. Dennis Farina is a legend. That's Jimmy Serrano, the guy who plays Jimmy Serrano. I love him in everything, especially the movie Snatch. Big fan of that movie.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and what's cool is Dennis Farina used to be a Chicago cop in real life, which is cool.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny to see him play the bad guy, and I love how he's like, just he thinks everyone's a fucking idiot in this movie. He's like, "Hey, moron number 1, put moron number 2 on the phone." Like, love that line. Yeah, I mean, the plot gets into motion right away, though. You know, I do think the pacing does drag a little bit in the end, but again, the movie, like, literally, the movie starts off with a chase scene, which is entertaining, and then it jumps to Joe Pantoliano talking to De Niro about, "I've got this guy you need to get in New York, and you got to bring him here by midnight on Friday," and, like, that literally sets the whole plot in motion. It's so simple. It's such a simple plot, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think part of the reason for me why it suffers a little bit is because the pacing is so fast in the beginning, and then it drops off, like, through the middle a little bit. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely, like, grabs you right away and makes you interested in what's going on, which is one of the most important things a movie can do. And that's why, like, I told you that I had to split the movie because I didn't realize it was like 2 hours long. So I had to stop with like about 20 minutes left so I could go to bed. But when I picked it up this afternoon to finish it, it's like basically it was the last, like the big climax of the movie. Yeah. That I watched, but yeah, it was like I feel like I would have liked, I think, because that whole sequence I think is very well done. They build tension extremely well.
The ending scene you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, in the airport, and Marvin coming and like almost fucking it up is like a great twist. And like, you know, there's like a double cross going on with the fake floppy disks, and like it's just like it's a pretty well put together scene, and it's that dialogue is between him and Jimmy Serrano is really good. Between De Niro and Jimmy Serrano is really good. But yeah, I wish it was just pushed like sooner in the movie a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it did help me split it up a little bit and like come back to it refreshed, and like ready to finish it. 'Cause, I did actually want to finish the movie. Like,
okay. So
it's not like I was like, oh, like, God damn it, I have to watch like 20 minutes of this like shit, you know. It's like I actually wanted to finish the movie because I was, you know, excited about the characters, and I wanted to see what the resolution would be, because
it's a good resolution.
Part of me had a feeling that like maybe De Niro was going to get fucking blown away or something, but you never know. So
yeah.
I was like, I don't know how this is really going to end. So
yeah, the ending gets wild for sure. How late were you watching it? Like the first 9/10
I stopped
of the
at
movie?
like 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Because that's my bedtime.
I think that also could play a factor into, you know, how you perceive the movie. I think that's a big thing. Like, if you're ever tired and you're like, I just need to go to bed, I want to get this over with, that could affect your thoughts on the pacing.
Oh,
in
yeah,
my opinion.
for sure.
And so I would be curious to see if you give it another try later on and see if you still like it or still have the same feeling.
Because part of the problem is that I was expecting it to be an hour and 20 minutes, like every other movie that we've watched so far. And then I was like, this is not like this, we're way over time. And I like checked and I was like, holy shit, this is 2 hours. And I was like, not prepared for it. But like I literally checked when there was like 20 minutes left in the movie and it was 9 o'clock. And I was like, oh, I'm all right. I'm just going to finish it tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, like I had I known that it was that long, which I should check. I don't know why I didn't. But had I watched it like during the day, I might have found it a little bit.
I think so. I think you would have
paced properly, but
yeah,
I'll give it another shot. To
be fair, I totally forgot it was 2 hours plus. I thought it was like an hour 45, and like I was watching the first half of it roughly with my girlfriend, and I was like, she's like, how long is this movie? And I was like, I don't know. I grabbed the back of the Blu-ray and I was like, oh, it's 2 hours and 6 minutes. I was like, damn. I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna finish this because it's gonna be late and past her bedtime. So I mean, it was late when I finished it, but I mean, I've seen it. I've seen this movie probably 3 or 4 times already. I don't know how I discovered it. I really don't. I don't remember how. It may have been from my cousin who introduced me to 80s movies when I was like in my teens, early teens.
I'm surprised this one has never come up before.
I know it's underrated.
Like
I'm telling you.
in our
like from-
general like discussion of movies. Like, yeah, I'm surprised that we never watched this.
I don't want to say it's
considering-
forgettable, but it's like it's easy to look past it in terms of 80s movies, I feel like. It gets lost, especially in the late 80s with all the like action movies and stuff.
Yeah, that
But-
makes sense.
But it's near and dear to my heart.
It doesn't
this
quite
movie.
fit like the I mean, it is kind of an action movie, but it's not the 80s action movie like staple, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
It's
not.
more of a like, I mean, it's also comedic. Like it's a little tougher to classify, I think, than most of the movies that we watched so
Yeah,
far. Like,
It's kind of a mixture of all the like a handful of genres, and I like movies like that. You know,
Yeah.
it's action, it's comedy, it's drama. More. I'd say it leans more on comedy, but like honestly, the action and the stunts in this movie are great in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they're so good. Like the driving and the helicopter sequence is cool.
Yeah.
Them flying down the river, that's really cool. Them jumping onto the train, that whole train scene I love, especially like the boxcar train scene, because there's
Yeah.
another train scene where there's two trains in it. There should have been one. But the scene where Grodin is going to leave, Jonathan Mardukas is going to leave De Niro, Jack Walsh's character. He's going to leave him he's not going to help him up onto the boxcar, and then De Niro gets on, and then he like doesn't want to talk to him again, and then the Duke Mardukas Grodin's character is like trying to make him laugh, and he talks about how he fucks chickens,
yeah.
which I love that scene. And that scene was improvised. Apparently, the director just told Grodin, he's like, you just gotta like try and make De Niro laugh. And so, like, I love that. I don't know. It feels very genuine in the scene.
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's funny and it's,
There's a few moments in this movie that feel a little improvised. I wonder how much of it was like
written
on the
page
spot
and not-
kind of banter versus like actual written dialogue. There's a few exchanges that different characters have that feel like one of those like blooper reels where they just kept like hurling insults back and forth, and like until somebody breaks. Like that's kind of like some of the banter, throughout this movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so many classic lines in my opinion, and it's like where he's talking to Joe Pantoliano on the phone, and he's pissed because he's like, your phone's bugged, and he's like, I'm not going to deliver the Duke. I'm just going to, fucking kill him and dump him in the swamp. And then he looks at the Duke, and he's just like, no. I'm not going to do that. I love that. It's so good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, there's just great little scenes, and like, it's funny how pissed off De Niro gets in this movie, because he's so, there's the whole theme of him checking his watch all the time because he's such a timely guy, and he's got to get him by this time on Friday at midnight. He's got to get him there, and just he's so serious, and then there's little moments where he just is like cocky, and it's great. I love it. It's a very, especially an underrated De Niro movie, considering his filmography obviously is iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the movie is fantastic. The whole $20 counterfeit scheme where they go to that one bar to try and get money, that's awesome. I just love how their relationship grows throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, he at the beginning, De Niro's like, you're just a criminal. Like, I don't need to fucking talk to you. Like, you're a piece of shit, and I'm above that, and I'm the law. And slowly over time, they just develop this great relationship. And, there's certain times where he's like, he goes to save, after the river scene where he's trying to get out, and Grodin saves De Niro. He's like, promise that you'll let me go. And he's like, all right,
Yeah.
I promise. And then he's like, fuck you, I'm not letting you go. and then he ends up letting him go at the end, which I love. And
Yeah.
you know, the whole time, Grodin, the Duke, has been lying about everything the entire movie. So much so, like, I love the scene where he's on the plane and he's like freaking out. That scene makes me laugh so hard every time. And he's like, these things go down. I love that. It's just so good. And then, you know, obviously...
That's the one payoff I wish they would have held out to, like, the very end for, is him lying about being afraid to fly.
Yeah.
Because it would have been awesome if they get to LA, they go through the I'm going to let you go thing. He gives him all the cash that he's had, like, hidden on him. Then he just goes and buys a plane ticket.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been so
funny.
good.
And it's funny that he's had that money with him the entire time. It's $300,000 on him, which is crazy.
In $1,000 bills.
Yeah.
Good luck breaking those.
Yeah. And I love that they joke about that. And then it's also funny because, like, De Niro's a cheap ass and he's like, I'm just gonna walk.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good movie. I love it. I'm glad we watched it. I hope it gets becomes more of a classic throughout history, and I hope that the people listening and that follow us on this podcast or for this podcast watch this movie, because it's, you know, Jake's opinion aside, it's fucking awesome.
It's a good movie. I was maybe a little overly harsh in my initial comments. Like, it's a good movie. I think, to be fair, I would definitely watch it with plenty of time. Like, don't rush like I did. I think, had I watched this earlier in the day, I probably would have felt better about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll watch it again for sure.
Good.
It's not I will keep wanting to say Roadhouse because it's Swayze.
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing. Like, I'm never gonna watch Dirty Dancing again. I don't care
really don't wanna watch that
if
one
somebody
either.
puts a gun to my head. I am not watching Dirty Dancing again. This is not that. Midnight Run is a movie that I will watch again at some point.
Good answer.
And probably enjoy at least as much as I did this time. Which I did like it. I did.
Good.
I think it was fun and entertaining.
Good. I mean, I agree with you on the pacing. It could have been a hair shorter, and it would have been even better.
Yeah.
Did your wife like it, or did she watch it with you?
She did watch it. She did not watch. She watched the end with me, but she left at some point in the middle of it. She didn't seem that
not a good
that
sign.
enthused by it. But, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely glad we watched it. I will be watching it in the future. I own it on Blu-ray, and it just came out in 4K, which I'd like to get the 4K disc, but the Blu-ray's fine. I own it for a reason. I love it. I'm also a huge proponent of just having physical media, but I hope more people discover this movie, because I love it. And again, I'm also excited for the next movie, especially since you haven't seen like any of the ones we're going to do this month, really.
No, yeah, surprisingly, because there are. Well, I've seen the last one, but yeah, the next two I have not seen, which are both surprising even to me.
Yeah, especially Bond. Like, we both
Yeah.
love James Bond movies.
Yeah, there's actually a large portion of the Bond catalog that I have never seen.
What?
Which is still surprising to me. It was hard to like get access to them for a very long time.
That's true. It actually was. I mean, I've owned them in one iteration or another on VHS, DVD. I have the whole set on Blu-ray now. Do you have the set?
No, because I want the 4K set.
Who knows when that's coming out?
Yeah, I know.
Good luck. But yeah, I can't wait to get into License to Kill next. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we're definitely looking forward to the next one. Unlike the rom-coms we did.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah. Give Midnight Run a chance. It's at least worth watching.
I appreciate that coming from you, Jake.
All right. See you next week.